Once a beacon of American industry, a symbol of innovation and prosperity. Detroit was known as the Motor City and the Paris of the West. Its name echoed around the globe, synonymous with the roar of engines and the promise of the American dream. But the vibrant energy that once defined Detroit has, for decades, been overshadowed by stories of decline, abandonment, and economic hardship. How did this dramatic shift occur? How did a city that once stood as a titan of manufacturing, a testament to American ingenuity, fall so far? This is the story of Detroit's rise and fall. A complex narrative woven with innovation, ambition, societal shifts, and economic forces that ultimately reshaped not only a city, but the very fabric of American industrial might. Join us as we delve into the history of Detroit, exploring its meteoric ascent to global prominence, the pivotal factors that fueled its growth, and the intricate web of circumstances that led to its devastating decline. This is not just a story of abandoned buildings. It's a human story of dreams built, challenged, and, in many ways, broken. Detroit's story begins long before the assembly line. Founded in 1701 by the French explorer Antoine de la Mauve, Cadillac. Its strategic location along the Detroit River, connecting the Great Lakes, made it a vital hub for trade and transportation in the early days of America. For over 2 centuries, it grew steadily, playing a role in the fur trade and maritime commerce. However, it was the dawn of the 20th century that truly ignited Detroit's trajectory. The burgeoning automotive industry found fertile ground in this Midwestern city. Visionary entrepreneurs like Henry Ford, the Dodge brothers, Walter Chrysler, and William Durant established their companies here, drawn by factors such as access to raw materials like steel and iron ore. A growing immigrant workforce seeking opportunity and a spirit of innovation. Henry Ford's introduction of the moving assembly line in 1913 at his Highland Park plant revolutionized manufacturing. This innovation drastically reduced production time and costs, making automobiles more affordable and accessible to the average American. The demand for cars soared, and Detroit became the epicenter of this industrial revolution. The automotive industry fueled unprecedented growth in Detroit. Factories sprang up across the city, employing hundreds of thousands of workers. This influx of people led to rapid urbanization, the construction of grand civic buildings, theaters, and sprawling residential neighborhoods. Detroit became a symbol of American industrial prowess, attracting people from all over the country and the world in search of well-paying jobs and a slice of the American dream. The prosperity generated by the auto industry permeated all aspects of life in Detroit. A thriving middle class emerged, enjoying a standard of living that was the envy of many. The city boasted a vibrant cultural scene, renowned architecture, and a sense of boundless optimism. Detroit in its heyday was a testament to the power of manufacturing and the promise of upward mobility. While Detroit experienced decades of phenomenal growth, the seeds of its eventual decline were being sown. Several interconnected factors began to exert pressure on the city's seemingly unshakable foundation. The power of labor unions, while crucial in securing fair wages and working conditions for also led to increased labor costs for the automotive companies. This made it more expensive to produce cars in Detroit compared to other regions and eventually other countries. Post-World War II, the rise of the suburbs and the phenomenon of white flight significantly impacted Detroit's demographic and economic landscape. As more affluent residents moved to the burgeoning suburbs, the city's tax base eroded and its infrastructure and public services began to suffer. This exodus was often intertwined with racial tensions and discriminatory housing practices. The Civil Rights Movement, while a vital step towards equality, also exposed and exacerbated deep-seated racial inequalities in Detroit. The city experienced periods of social unrest and racial tension, further contributing to the outward migration of residents and businesses. The oil crises of the 1970s presented a significant challenge to the American automotive industry. As gas prices soared, consumers increasingly turned to smaller, more fuel-efficient cars, produced by foreign manufacturers, particularly from Japan and Germany. Detroit's big three automakers were slow to adapt to this shift in consumer demand, clinging to their production of larger, gas-guzzling vehicles. This lack of innovation and responsiveness to market changes began to erode their market share. Furthermore, the globalization of the automotive industry meant that American automakers faced increasing competition from overseas. Companies with lower labor costs and innovative designs gained a competitive edge, putting further pressure on Detroit's manufacturing base. The concentration of Detroit's economy in a single industry, automobiles, made it particularly vulnerable to these external shocks. Unlike more diversified economies, Detroit lacked a strong safety net when the auto industry began to falter. The challenges of the late 20th century intensified in the early 21st century, leading to a devastating period of deindustrialization in Detroit. As the big three automakers struggled to compete globally, they began to downsize their operations, close factories, and lay off thousands of workers. This resulted in a catastrophic loss of jobs and a significant decline in the city's population. The once vibrant neighborhoods surrounding the factories began to empty out. Businesses closed, and the tax base continued to shrink, further crippling the city's ability to provide essential services like public safety, education, and infrastructure maintenance. A vicious cycle of decline took hold. The housing market in Detroit collapsed, leading to widespread foreclosures and the abandonment of countless properties. Images of once grand homes falling into disrepair became symbolic of the city's plight. The once bustling downtown area also saw a significant decline, with many businesses relocating to the suburbs or other states. The city's financial situation became increasingly dire, culminating in the largest municipal bankruptcy in United States history in 2013. Detroit was burdened by billions of dollars in debt, struggling to meet its obligations to retirees and provide basic services to its remaining residents. The bankruptcy was a stark recognition of the depth of the crisis that had engulfed the city. Despite the profound challenges it has faced, the story of Detroit is not solely one of decline. In recent years, there have been glimmers of hope and signs of resilience. A new generation of entrepreneurs, artists, and community activists are working to rebuild the city from the ground up. Efforts to revitalize downtown Detroit have seen some success, with the renovation of historic buildings, the opening of new businesses, and an increase in residential living. Initiatives focused on urban farming, community gardens, and sustainable development are taking root in previously abandoned areas. The automotive industry, while significantly smaller than its former glory, is also undergoing a transformation with a focus on electric vehicles and new technologies. Detroit remains a hub for automotive engineering and innovation, albeit in a different form. However, the road to recovery is long and complex. Detroit still faces significant challenges, including poverty, unemployment, and infrastructure issues. The scars of deindustrialization are still visible across the cityscape. The population, while showing signs of stabilizing, is still far below its peak. The story of Detroit serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of economic dependence on a single industry and the importance of diversification and adaptation. It also highlights the profound impact of social and demographic shifts on urban centers. Ultimately, the future of Detroit remains uncertain, but the spirit of resilience and the determination of its people offer a glimmer of hope. The Motor City may never fully recapture its former glory, but it is forging a new identity, one built on innovation, community, and a deep understanding of the lessons learned from its dramatic rise and devastating fall. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Detroit's complex history. If you found this video insightful, please like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth analyses of societal and economic transformations. What other iconic American cities would you like us to explore?